Welcome back, guys. It is Easter Monday and the shop's closed today. The guys decided they wanted today off instead of Friday. Of course, Hast knows no vacation, so I'm up here, and today the goal is going to be to get this transmission in, get the clutch, all that stuff, maybe the belly pan on the bottom of the car with the rivets and stuff, depending on how much time I have. So here on the bench we have the advanced clutch. This is the same clutch that Grubworm runs. It's the twin 8-inch disc, and it's an adjustable clutch, obviously. So we have the flywheel here, and what I'm checking now is to make sure the flywheel bolts are going to clear the clutch disc, because there's been some customers that Jonathan's had that these have hit, and according to my little straight edge here, it looks like it is going to be fine. Have plenty of clearance. Of course, we put one of the clutch discs on there to check as well. Make sure, you know, the guy that makes these wrote it out with Sharpie for any dummies that don't realize that the hub in the middle of the disc, the raised portion goes towards the transmission, not towards the flywheel. So if you put it like that, of course it's going to hit the bolt and not sit down in there. If you do it like this, it's not going to hit anything. So make sure you read, obviously, the disc here. So that's your base disc. Then you got your floater. It goes like that. And you have your next disc. It goes like that. And then your pressure plate. Just shows you a little bit about that. Now this pressure plate has spacers in it. Just it's 2 washers under each one of these nuts. It's pretty much the same as any of your twin disc clutch. That, you know, the one I run from Monster was pretty much the same. You know, it had spacers, aluminum spacers here under the outside bolts for the pressure plate. So it's no different, just like your typical clutch here. So moving on over here, we've got a Tilton slave cylinder, and I've got the base bolted up already. Haven't adjusted anything yet because obviously we ain't got our clutch stuff installed on the car yet. But once I get it installed on the car, I will measure from the bell housing to the arms there, and then check my distance for the slave cylinder there to get all that right, you know, pre-putting the transmission in. So that's what we're going to do, and we'll set up the camera and video a little bit of it. So everything is installed now, and what I've done, I didn't film it, but I have put a straight edge across the face of the bell housing here, and I measured from the back side of that straight edge to the face of this finger right here. Now this finger has a little flop to it. Make sure you pull it all the way back and measure that distance. Then write that distance down, which our distance happened to be 2.239 inches is that space there. So now you want a 1/4 inch for your slave cylinder. So then put a straight edge on the face of the bearing here, and you measure back to this mounting face, and you get your distance there, which should be a 1/4 inch greater than this distance. And that's how you set your adjustment on your slave cylinder. So on the Tilton, it just kind of free floats on there, and it's got a little shoulder bolt that you tighten down right here to keep it from rotating and changing distance. Then your lines come out here. So everything is set now, and it's time to put the transmission in. So fast forward just a little bit, I went home for a little while and come back. Got my daughter with me actually. We're gonna go home here in a minute again, but this shows the transmission fully installed. This is how we're gonna run it. This is how it'll look when you look inside the car as far as being finished. Got the filler panel put in here. Got everything bolted up for good the way it's gonna be. Started putting some of the carbon panels in. Just the process of getting these riveted on in place and everything. A little bit of change of plans. You can see over there my carbon piece is no longer in the floor. I've got a big triangle piece right there. After going back and forth with Bunton, he has insisted on getting that stuff off the floor. And he's probably right, even though I don't think anybody will be standing in my car. But he said that usually gives problems whenever you put stuff on the floor, because somebody might be helping you, they might step their foot in there and knock something loose or damage something when it's on the floor like that. So getting it off the floor is always the best. So come over here, and we actually move my rubber isolators up on that corner. You can see it's on rubber isolators or vibration dampeners, and it's nut serted to the frame, which is still got the plastic film on there because he's got to drill it and put a bunch of stuff on there. But that made it, you'll be able to see through the floor a lot more, and man, it sure looks good with that carbon right there. I've got this carbon is in here and done. I've actually trying to see what that was. Oh, I see now. Got everything riveted in. Lost my train of thought there for a minute. I got everything riveted in on this panel so it don't have to come back off. Got the battery in place here. Got everything in position just like it needs to be. There's another view of that tunnel plate from this side. You can see this ballistics blanket here is designed for a G-force trans with the levers, and obviously I'm not running that. I flipped it around where these holes would be away from me, and it works out great. Got the little transmission vent poking out there, and the lines come in from the top there. My access hole to adjust the clutch and everything is on this side, so everything is away from me as far as where it could exit out or throw debris out. But everything's good to go. Need to actually put the drive shaft in and reevaluate that situation now with the actual real transmissions in with the output shaft and everything. As far as this little panel here, you know, fuses, relays, the battery studs, all this stuff will, the distribution, all that'll go here. And then the only box we're going to really have on this car is one injector driver box, and it will go up here. So that'll clean up everything real good, keep it all consolidated, and also our boost control will go on this as well. But this thing's starting to look like a pro mod, ain't it? Love it. So more updates to come. So back at it again today. Went ahead and put the fluid in the rear end, so we wouldn't forget about that. Also went ahead and got the two panels that are outside, the fasteners riveted on that, and got those installed for good. Also got the transmission tunnel put in, got the drive shaft put in. See if I can get under here and kind of show you that. So I was end up I measured, and I think I've got enough engagement after adjusting some things, and especially after spacing the bell housing back, that we can just use the drive shaft that we originally had in the car, which is great because I've got a chromoly one back for backup as well. So we're just gonna see how it goes. Went ahead and got the seat put in, the harness. This seat's got a little bit of sentimental value. This is the seat that was in the car for the first build. It's actually got a notch out on the top of it. You can't see it because the new cover I put on it, and I give it a black rattle can job to kind of blend it in with the rest of the car. But it's actually got a big notch right here because that's how low the cage used to be in the car. So you can see right there how it's cut, but nobody will ever see that new cover. So it fits in there really nice. Got it all secure. The new harness is in, or the new harness in. And got the steering wheel on there just to show you what it looks like. But got that took care of. Also started on the headers. I'm stepping on header tubes. Got started on the headers. Me and Joey kind of going at this together. I like to get him involved because, especially if we've got a limited number of bins, which we always do, but when I'm in a time crunch, it helps to have a couple brains to see things from a couple different ways, bounce ideas off each other, and it goes pretty smooth like that. So those front two primaries are done as far as the mock-up. This one is done on this side for the first one, or the second one rather. We'll do the first one next. It'll be like the other side. But after tomorrow evening, should have the headers mocked up where I can tear them apart and start welding, and should have that knocked out depending on how late I work those couple days in the next couple days. So the headers will be done and we can check that off the box. So that's what's going on. More updates tomorrow. So back today, continuing the header fab. We were able to get all the primaries mocked up. You can see the passenger side here. Got plenty of plug clearance. You can see it's wide open to every single plug. And that's always a goal when doing headers. Actually got the primaries off of the head far enough where I kind of want to go from underneath with 90s on the spark plugs and let the wires go down below and come up the firewall to the coils here. I don't really want the wires going over top because you're going to have your EGTs coming over top right here. There's going to be enough stuff going on, so I'm going to attempt to do them on the bottom anyway. This other side kind of mirrors what we got going on over there. Obviously we got the steering shaft. That thing's trying to fall out right there. We got the steering shaft to worry about on this side, so we had to put a little bend on that back one to get it jumped over and out. It gets pretty tight on the steering shaft right here, so we got a folded up piece of cardboard to give the clearance during mock-up. But it's pretty sweet. I'm happy with it. About to pull everything off and weld now. Just figured I'd show you everything before I did that. we got everything together except for the collectors. Now what I did to ensure perfect fitment, I'm not able to do this on a lot of setups, but with mine, since I built from the turbo back and just had the hot side hanging there, I was able to bolt the collector to the hot side, bolt the header to the head, and then start doing some stitch welds around the collector while it's bolted up to the hot side. So there's going to be zero variation in fitment because I've done that, because it's not going to move now that it's pretty much welded to the primaries at 4 different points. There's no way it can move. So it's going to fit up great. Can't get this burp out. But if any of y'all are considering doing the headers for any LS, check out the Shear Fab billet flanges. These things are just awesome. The other header over here, as you can see, just makes welding a breeze. They come out really good. They really don't warp that bad, even though I had these bolted down like I always do. They didn't seem to try to pull that much like a regular flat laser cut piece. So with the machine billet, with it really thick in the middle right there, that raised portion, that really makes it strong. So shout out to Ron for making these, because they're pretty slick pieces. So tomorrow I'll come in, I'm out of time today. Tomorrow I'm going to come in and weld these together and put the EGTs on. I've got an engine block on an engine stand in the back that I'm going to roll out here and bolt the headers on, so it'll make it easier to weld the EGTs on and get them at the right angle and stuff like that, like I want them. So another thing that we did today was make the mounts for the headlights. Now we're inside the front end now. You can see the tree, backside of the carbon. There's nowhere to mount the headlights, which we have right there. These are just Jeep LED headlights. They're the 7-inch. They fit perfectly in the Datsun holes, so a lot of guys run the Jeep headlights. I did last setup, and this is a Jeep mounting flange. Little plastic piece, got the aimers, which we won't be able to use those, but it does have 3 studs that we can attach it to something. But that's the problem, there's nothing to attach it to. So what we have done today is took a piece of sheet metal, welded some quarter 20 studs to it, just bolts with the heads ground down kind of flat, and I have panel bonded that to the inside of the fender and on top here. So if I can get this light here and hold it up and show you. Well, that's wrong. I got the wrong side, but you get the idea. It's gonna go that way, but the double studs is gonna actually be against the side. I've got the wrong side. Hang on. It bugs me because what I'm saying don't make sense unless you see it. So the double studs is right there. We'll make a bracket to go over and bolt to these other studs on the side, and then one on the top to hold it, and that will hold the headlight secure in place. And it's not that heavy, so it won't take much to keep it steady, and that panel bond will rip a hole in that stuff before it turns loose, because that's what the tree and everything's held on with. So no worries there about it coming loose. But we done it on both sides this morning early, and it's still kind of sticky, but it takes a full day for that stuff to set up, and once it's set up, it's not going anywhere. So I'll throw some black paint on that after it dries. I just didn't want to paint it and reduce the amount of air getting to it for it to cure good and hard. So hopefully get those put in the next couple of days. But the headers are done. We've got the plumbing back. They actually shipped it, and I haven't even looked at it, to tell you the truth. Joey brought it in on a UPS, and I'm trying to see where it even is. Yeah. This is a huge box of all of our plumbing for the car.
And I will go through that tomorrow after I finish the headers and get all that installed and laid out. And then pretty much everything under the hood will be done at that point. So we'll pick back up tomorrow. Well, I wasn't going to come back up here tonight, but I got a shower, got supper eat, played with the kids for a while. My wife's been sick, so she went to bed early. So after I got the kids down, I thought, you know what? I'm going to come back up to the shop, or go back up to the shop, and I'm going to finish those headers tonight. So, yes, I've got my pajamas on. Salty chicken shirt, John Doc. So I got the headers done. You watched on the time lapse. Went through all the process of welding. I actually put 2 passes around the collectors like I normally do. Put the EGTs on, and they look awesome. Check them out. So put a fresh bolt kit. These actually have O-rings cut into the head so they don't have loose gaskets. I guess the O-rings would be loose, but they actually kind of lock into the head. So yeah, the fitment was perfect. Like I said, I brought the collector over here after I got the primaries and all that stuff welded up, welded to the flange. I put the collector on over on the bench, brought it over here and clamped the collector to the hot side, and then come around here and put some heavy stitches all the way around. So the collector is exactly in the position it's going to be in when it's bolted up. There's no gaps, there's no tightening the V-band clamp down to get it pulled close. None of that. It's perfect fitment. So we can only do that whenever we start with the hot side and build it back to the headers, which I hardly ever do. But like I said, on this car, we had to go through the suspension, and I had to get all that stuff in the way for the plumbing and stuff, so it could get mocked up. So that's just the way it rolled with this car. But super happy with it, the way they turned out. Pretty symmetrical. The only thing different, this rear primary here doesn't do the same whoop-de-doo as the other one does, because we jumped the steering shaft there. So other than that, you can see the pictures in the post I make. They're pretty close. So that is done now. So now tomorrow we're going to mock up all that plumbing and pretty much everything in the engine bay, for the exception of the 2 lines that we're not going to have until they get the parts in from England or wherever they get them fittings from. So anyway, excited, got that knocked out tonight. One thing I will show you, well, it's back over this way. Cody today, he got caught up with some stuff, and I had him go ahead and fit the carbon door panels up. I already had some carbon pieces cut that were a general size. They needed shaped up and stuff, and he took some time today and got the driver's side done. You can see he's got it clear coat on there, which in hindsight, I told him to put the door on the car and shut it. How are we going to get the door open now? We're going to have to take the panel off and reach in there, but the door's shut, so hopefully we can get the panel off with those little clicos. Hopefully we can get them out pretty easily and get our hand in there to work the latch, because I haven't brought the latch up through the door yet, because we don't know where the window is going to go. And that's going to be the next thing, is to do the window. I really hope they come in, because that's going to basically be the last step. Every single thing on this car will be done except for the windows, because Optic Armor is taking forever. So that's what's going on. I'm gonna go home, get some sleep, and we'll mock up some plumbing tomorrow and see how all that fits in there. So see you then. Good morning. So we're back here early this morning. One other thing that I overlooked that I just thought about last night is the oil temperature. We're gonna have to monitor the oil temperature. Obviously we don't have coolant in this motor, so we're not gonna be monitoring that, but I think I'm gonna put a temperature sensor in the bottom of the dry sump tank. I'm gonna weld a little 3/8 bung in the bottom of that before we get any oil in it, and I'm gonna go ahead and do that this morning. I've got a sensor that'll be here today. I'm just gonna use a GM universal temperature sensor, fluid temperature sensor, to monitor that. So just another detail that I have forgot. I'll open the box in a minute and show you guys the plumbing, but right now I'm gonna do this. So getting into our plumbing here, shows you what the lines look like. Fully assembled, black with the gold collars. Super flexible line. This is also super lightweight stuff. You notice the fittings are really low profile. They're not big and huge and bulky, but very nice stuff. This is our fuel lines, alcohol compatible stuff here with the fittings. They've got alcohol compatible O-rings. You've got brake lines, CO2 lines, a bunch of lines. Then we got some random fittings and stuff that we got also. So we're gonna get all this stuff put on and maybe mock up the wing as well today, since we got all that stuff powder coated, because a lot of guys are waiting on this wing to be for sale, because I have said that we're going to offer this wing that's on this car in a fully aluminum version for the S30 chassis or the Datsun community. So I'm going to get that thing on there, get some pictures out there for you guys, and see how many of you guys want it. Well, late afternoon update. All the plumbing in that box is on the car. We only found out we were missing
2 of the fire system lines and 1 little short 6-inch CO2 line out of all that, which is pretty good considering how many lines there were in the order. And obviously we're missing 1 fuel line and 2 of the oil lines for the dry sump. But other than that, everything is on this car. All the brake lines, everything are on there. They just need to be tied up and tightened up, or most of them are tight, but you know what I mean, like tied together, cushion clamped along the bottom, you know, stuff to hold them up. Took pretty much most of the day to get everything on there the way it was supposed to be. All the lines kind of clocked right, routed right. You don't realize how much time that takes. Just like here, I've got 1, 2, 3 huge lines, 1 small line, and a throttle cable all going under the intake. And it is very tight. Took me a while to fish those through there. A lot of patience, but looks really, really clean. I love the black and gold. Like I said, the brake lines, they're just kind of hanging here loose. They've all got to be tied up, but got them ran where they're supposed to go. Might actually run that one behind there or something. I don't know. I'm gonna clean them all up tomorrow when I come in. That's gonna be a priority. So everything on the inside, like I said, a couple fire system lines are missing, but other than that, everything is hooked up, even the brake line going to the back. So check out this wing. Now that it's black, that thing looks sick, don't it? So this will be what we'll offer for the Datsun guys. Obviously it'll be aluminum. Probably might just leave it completely flat. Probably won't put a brake in it just because, I don't know, we might put a brake in it depending on, you know, something that's kind of like this. Something to stiffen it up a little bit. But I was going to put some support on this, but I don't know if I will or not, because it's pretty stiff, especially when we put the wicker bill across the back and bolted it up. And see, a lot of this stuff ain't even tight yet, and I mean, I'm pulling on that pretty hard and it's not going anywhere just with it all tied together. And this stuff here isn't even really that tight yet. Got Clecos holding the middle ones in because none of that stuff's painted. We're gonna have to take the wing off when we get it wrapped. I just wanted it to be on there and fitted up. So we still have to get Lexan, which is another waiting game, but I'm really happy with the way it come out, to say the least. Gives you a view from up top. That really looks, that's the best view right there. But anyway, took the transmission blanket off, get it out of Bunton's way. We've got the harness that from Tick that Jonathan dug on the shelves and found one of their harnesses in stock that incorporates the output shaft speed sensor, which is a Hall effects sensor that basically all the aftermarket ECUs will read. That's one of their mods that they've still got in the R&D process, but as soon as I can get a sensor from them, the wire and harness will already be wired for it. I've got the boost controller hooked up with both lines there. It's going to go on this little board here, so I just got it kind of laid out of the way. CO2 bottle, still haven't got my bracket to mount it vertically, still waiting on that, but it'll get here eventually, I guess. I'm just going to kind of leave it in there for Bunton in case he's got to test the solenoids or whatever else. But
is really coming together, and we are going to be dropping this thing off next weekend down in Georgia. So might be before then. It just depends on my schedule. I've got a new guy starting next week with us, and I'm going to be out, or I'm going to have to be out 2 days next week anyway. So I really don't want to be gone pretty much all week the first week the new guy starts. So I want to kind of be around to show him what's going on, and not kind of throw that on the Joey and Cody to kind of run with that, which they could. I just don't want to say, you know, here's a new guy, you show him what to do, I'm out. So I don't want to do him like that. So that's it. I'll come up here tomorrow and tidy that stuff up, and then it will be a wrap for this week's update. And then pretty much that will be it until Mike from Brown & Miller said he was going to bring those other lines by the first part of the week, so I'll go ahead and hook those up. But that is pretty much it before it goes to wiring. I'm just going to go over some things. We might bleed the brakes and get some of that stuff worked out. Go ahead and put transmission fluid in it. I got that ordered. It takes the GF2000, the G-Force stuff, because it's got a G-Force gear set. So I've got to get that fluid added and all that. And maybe, just maybe, tomorrow before this video is over, we might put it on the scales. But the front end's not going to be on, so no, I'll just wait till next week. But try to put it on the scales before it goes to Georgia. That way, I'm excited to see how light the thing is. So, see you tomorrow. Okay, final walk around before we go home for the weekend. Been doing a lot of little odds and ends this morning. Like I said, I tidied up all the plumbing. Got everything in order, zip tied together where it's really, really neat. You'll also notice that I put some carbon tube protectors. I guess this makes it a pro mod, having carbon tube protectors on it. It really looks nice though, having these on here. These are from, I forget where they're from. I got the tag here somewhere. West Side, I think. Get them from Summit. But really nice. Only thing, the 1 inch doesn't fit as tight as it's supposed to around the tube. It says it's a universal between a 1 inch and 1.25 inches, but it's really kind of, it doesn't squeeze really tight on the 1 inch. So I actually, when I put the silicone drops on there, I put some zip ties around it to kind of hold it in place so the silicone got stiff. But yeah, really cleans it up. Put some there. Going over here, getting in. Got there. Looking inside. Got one on the dash bar going across there, in between the brace and the corner. I did some body work this morning, can't even tell. I fixed the little spot where I welded it and it popped the primer off right there. Got some Bondo and some sandpaper and did it to it. And this point also right here, this used to be a little bubble that rose up just in the time frame since the body work was done. This car was a rusty mess. And Jimmy Grooms at Dark City Customs, he did a lot of work to this thing. Like, he kept it for pretty much a year, just working on it on the side. You see the carbon protectors there on this 1.5 inches and 1.25 inches there. But he did a ton of work to this thing and tried to get all the rust out of it, which, you know, something's rusty, you can only cut so much out of it without having to just rebuild the whole thing. But he really did a good job. And that little spot there, I don't know, when I sanded it off, It was almost like an air bubble or something had come up, but didn't want to show through the wrap, so throwed some primer on it and some Bondo and sanded it back down. So no big deal. Next week I'll probably continue doing some little odds and ends. I wasn't gonna do the resin underneath the carbon panels, but I still might, just to see that little tiny gap right there. That's gonna let tire smoke come up through there pretty good. So I probably will come on the back side and do something there. The corner tape though is white though, and I might have to get some dye or something to dye that stuff black so it doesn't show through. But we're down to the wire now, literally. I don't know when I'll get it to Georgia next week, but I'll plan to drop it off sometime next week. It might stretch into the weekend though before I get it down there. But either way, not this coming Monday, but the next, Bunton will be starting on this thing. We've already got some parts on the way, sending it to him, or he's ordering some parts and then sending some money to get going on that. So there's no delay at all, and I'm excited. I've also located a couple people that can wrap it. As of yesterday, I hadn't found anybody that could get to it inside the next month, or even in the next 2 months. The guys are just slam busy. So I did make a post last night, and I found a bunch of guys that do good quality work. So one of those will probably come out here to the shop and wrap this thing, and hopefully in a month we're gonna have a completed race car, and in plenty of time to debut at Streetcar Takeover Charlotte, which it'll be under our tent at our vendor booth. So make sure to come by and check it out. So we'll see you next week with more updates.